Welcome to South TV. This is Monica Kunsekwe Gutha. I am excited. Today we have, as usual, our co-host, Reverend Maforo, and we invited Takudzwa Chikepe again because the last time we had a discussion with him, our internet was playing up. So I'm gonna hand over to Reverend Maforo, and yeah, greetings.
Okay, I think I'll say greetings, and I'll also say technology is a game changer. I'm I'm sitting here at a rest area in Illinois, on my way from West Virginia. But hey, we thank God that we can do this. I think that the best way we can get started here, I think Wachikepe can give us Takunanja, just 30 seconds, something from your best that can come. Takudzwa is a poet, one of the most decorated poets from Zimbabwe, now in the United States. The last time we visited with him he was in Zimbabwe, and I hope he will tell us what's going on in the USA. But we want to introduce you to our audiences. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank
so
you.
before you get into Zita Mutupo, Makore, Fundo, Jesejo, would you just give us a teaser?
All right. Thank you so much, Reverend Maforo. So I'm going to do a poem that is called "These Are Angels and Demons." I'm just liking this poem these days. Some they think poetry is the art of dressing words and undressing words. Some they think poetry is music in its raw state. Some they think poetry is unproven ideologies and theories. And some think poetry is a generational gift from one tick of time to another. But I say unto you, if you want to hear demons or angels speaking unto your life, befriend a poet. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You have not only given us a teaser, but you have expressed for us a definition of your own.
Yeah.
For poetry, because what I'm hearing in this very, very short one is that poet comes forth from yourself.
Yes.
Inside out.
That's very true.
And of course, interacting with the environment, because the environment probably shapes your poetry.
Yes.
Influences your poetry. But I'm one. In fact, I'll just say I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, thank you.
I'm trying to look for who else is a big fan than me.
Yeah.
And Monica looks like she's gonna say she is the number one, but let's see how this goes. Would you now introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Takudzwa Chikepe, famously known as Vachikepe the poet. I believe poetry is my gift. I've been writing poetry for 15 years, from the age of 19, and I'm now 34 years. So I write poetry, and poetry to me it means more and more and more.
Okay, something we did not expect has happened here. Uh, I don't know if I'm the only one. Monica, are you there? We lost. Did we lose everyone, or it's only me who lost you?
It's only you, but over here we didn't lose you.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
that's
have you.
awesome.
Do
Well,
you?
where do you come from?
I come from Katanga, Norton. That is where I come from in terms of where I come from. And where I come from Mzokomba Boera.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I believe you are in the United States now. What's going on?
Yes, I'm in the United States. I came in August in the United States. So I'm at school. I started my first year. I'm doing masters in divinity at the Duke University in North Carolina. So I started this year in August. So I'm in my first semester studying divinity.
Woohoo!
Yeah, yeah.
Well, well, you know what? I'm starving off Monica here. I'm gonna let chip in, but before she does, uh, would you go ahead and tell us your journey
Mhm.
in poetry with poetry,
Yeah.
and more specifically,
Mhm.
uh, saying out what your achievements,
Okay.
what achievements do you celebrate as well?
Okay. So I started writing poetry in 2006. That is the time when I was 19 years old. I was at Nyatsime College at a boarding school. I was there from Form 1 up to Form 6. And when I was Form 6, I was the head boy there. So my achievement is how I got inspired to start writing poetry because I was the best Shona student in my class when I was upper six, but I didn't know that I can't read Shona until one day when my Shona teacher, his name was Mr. Patsanza, he came into the class and he said, "Now today we are reading a Shona book, and we'll start with the head boy." So I was given the book to read. So when I started reading the book, I read the book like I'm a 7-year old, and everyone was shocked in the class, and everyone laughed at me. And the teacher who was my rugby coach at that time was also rugby captain. He was shocked that I'm the best Shona student, but I can't read Shona. He just looked at me and he went out of the class. So for me, that was the only time that I was embarrassed. People they laughed at me, but after that they realized that he can't read. So they comforted me, yeah, especially the ladies who teach you how to read, don't worry, and all that. That gave birth to this poet that we have today. Because what then happened, that was the only time people laughed at me. I started to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I would go to the classes and I would start to read on top of my voice to teach myself to read Shona. So I went to the library and I took all the Shona books that were in the library and I stocked in the Shona books in my room. I had my own room as the head boy, and I would read all those books every day from 4 a.m. to around 7 o'clock. I go back to my room, I bath, then I go for porridge around 8 o'clock every day until there was a time when there were no books to read in the library. So so I didn't have anything to read. So I designed a way of getting something to read because I was still eager to read Shona. So I started writing anything that I think from my mind, and reading those things. And the same teacher one day he came in class and he saw my writings and he said, "Who? who wrote this? Then I say, it's me. Then he said, do you know what this is? Then I said, I don't know. Then he said, this is poetry. And he said, if ever you don't find anything to do in life, try to start writing poetry to get you far. So my achievement was to teach myself to read Shona. I now read Shona, and in the process of doing that, I ended up being a poet. Yeah, so that was that. And after that, I went to school. I went to National University of Science and Technology from 2007 to 2012. I did a BSc honors in publishing. I always tell people that the idea that I had in mind of university life is not what I encountered at school. Uh, I was thinking that at school, when we arrive, we are going to be given 20 books, 40 books, 50 books to read. And we are going to be asked all sorts of different questions we've never been asked in our lives. And they're going to make us think like what we have never done in our lives. But when I went to school, it wasn't like that. The lecturer would come into the class, would give lecture. If you're there, if you can memorize, the better. Then that was that. For me, it wasn't. It was challenging, but not really challenging. So so I ended up writing poetry from 2007 to 2012. I ended up most of the time at school, I was writing poetry all the time because at the same time, I was also quick to understand what the lecturer wants out of us. After that, the lecturer will keep on repeating. So I'll just start writing. So I managed to write my poetry from that time. And I managed to balance my academic world and my poetry because I would um, I would think in poetry as a way of understanding my books, and I would use my books. I would read all sorts of things they give us in class. In addition to that, I would read all sorts of other things. I would read books about metaphysics, psychology. Sometimes I was trying to even do mathematics, differentiations, trying to understand differentiation in words and all sorts of things. Anything that I understand in terms of books, then I'll turn that into poetry. So that's how my poetry became very distinctive. And I did very good at university. My dissertation was the best in the whole faculty. I had a distinction, and my dissertation was self-publishing towards sustainable book development in Zimbabwe. So I advocate for self-publishing. My argument was when you realize that you are an author, don't wait for those traditional publishers so that they will publish your book. They will make you wait for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Start publishing your book. Don't worry about quality. Quality, you are quality before we start to look for quality out of you. So just publish, and from that, the traditional publishers, they will also discover you along the way. So that was my argument. And in 2010, in 2008, I graduated in 2012. In 2008, we couldn't raise enough money for me to continue going to school because that was the time my dad retired. He was in the army, retired from the army. So his package, he invested it in the stock market, and there was economic collapse in Zimbabwe. So it was difficult. So I had to spend 2008 the whole year in Norton without going to school because at that time school tuition fee was $1,000 if I'm not mistaken, and no one was getting that money in Zimbabwe. That was the time when the teacher was given $300, and everyone complained, why is the teacher being given all that money? So I spent the whole year in 2008 at home. In my brains, I thought like, I'll never have a degree. This is the end of my life. My parents, they can't afford to send me to university, so I need to sort myself out. So I spent the whole year 2008. I locked myself in my room and I spent the whole year writing poetry. And I wrote 200 poems. And one poem at that time, it was a page to 8 pages. That was one poem for me. So I wrote 200 poems. And at that time, one day, it was from January to around October, November. Uh, so I would walk around in Katanga, I would put earphones, but not playing anything, but listening to what people are saying. And when I'm listening to what people are saying, then I come back home and I start to write poetry out of what people were saying. So one day, I was passing through Mbiradze Narira guys. They were doing their session, their Mbira session, and I listened to their music. Their music to me, it was like a voice that was calling me. It was really beautiful. I went there, I introduced myself, and they were very happy. I talked to Tendai Gamadze, the founder, and the question he asked me is, "What is your totem?" I said, "My totem is a zebra. I'm a Samaita, and my mother, she's a buffalo. She's a Nyati." Then he said to me, "Oh, okay, I'm a zebra too, Samaita. So you're my son. Anytime you can just come here." So 2008, I ended that year at Mbiradze Naira. I also became their marketing manager. They tried to teach me how to play Mbira. They really tried for I think 8 years, but I failed how to play Mbira. Yeah. So I was there. So I learned a lot about culture from those guys. The time that I was there, they taught me Unu, Ubuntu, Unuism, something that I treasure for the rest of my life. From that education from Tendai Gamadze and Mbiradze Naira, I always say to people when they ask me what is a totem, I always tell them the totem is the best way as Africans we can trace our DNA. We can have different surnames, but once we understand that we've got the same totem, automatically we are related. So, so I organize shows for these guys. I organize shows for them in Book Cafe and different places in Harare. I even organized another show for them to South Africa. We went to South Africa to play Mbira. So that was another achievement because I would I managed to balance my academic world, my cultural world, and my church world. It was becoming something else. It was becoming vast. Yeah. So after 2012, I graduated. I started. I was discovered by the guys at Book Cafe. They liked me after I introduced Mbiradze Naira. They asked me. I'm doing publishing. Then there's the guy who was there is now late. He's called Paul Bricchio. He said, "Can you come? I'm thinking of starting a bookshop. So would you like to operate this bookshop? Book Cafe started as a bookshop. I'm thinking of bringing back the bookshop." Then I said, "Sure, I can do that." So I started working at Book Cafe, and that is where I met nearly all the artists in Zimbabwe because it was the cultural oasis of Zimbabwe. So a lot of artists they would come, so I continued writing poetry at Book Cafe, learning a lot from people. I didn't perform because at Book Cafe they promoted spoken word poetry. So for me, I'm a reader. I specialize in reading poetry. I specialize in writing poetry. So most of the time I was just there studying their art and all sorts of things. So that was me at Book Cafe 2012, 2014. Then I worked at United Nations as a consultant 2014, 2015. In 2015, I looked for a job after my very big and beautiful job at United Nations. Then I couldn't get a job from 2015. I tried by all means. Then I couldn't get a job in Zimbabwe. So I stayed from 2015 to 2021 being unemployed. That is the time that I became a full-time poet. And that is the time that I also spent most of my time at church because I was trying to balance all sorts of things. Because of the poetry that I was writing, it became spiritual poetry. So I would tap into different spiritual zones. For example, the other times I would just I'll just hear like some people, some dead people, they'll just say to me, you know what? I've got a story to tell. Would you want to tell my story in your poetry? So it became a time when it became really overwhelming. So I had to seek for spiritual refuge. So I ended up like spending most of my time at the Methodist Church in Zimbabwe. Yeah, so that was 2015 to 2018. Yeah. So, and I was writing poetry. I'm always writing poetry. Like when I'm talking to people, like right now in my brains, maybe I've got 5 to 10 folders of poetry that are nonstop writing every time. And over the years, at first it was overwhelming, but over the years, I managed to harness the relationship between me and my poetry. Sometimes I can just say to my mentor poetry, okay, guys, I know you're writing poetry, but just do what you're doing. Close your door. I just want to concentrate on what I'm doing, whether it's school or anything else. 2018, um, thieves they came at our house and they stole everything. They stole my poet. They stole my laptop. They stole my ebook readers, my phones, my everything, everything about me. They stole. So it means all my poetry was stolen. 2018. That was the time I almost gave up being a poet. I said, and that was the time when I was being a Christian, like being a full-time Christian from 2015. So I said, like, okay, fine, God, I'm trying to be your friend here, although you're always our friend, but you have taken everything that I have. So it's a sign from you that you don't want me to be a poet. So I'm done. I'm done being a poet. Or that was 2018. Or maybe I'm not getting a job because I really wanted a job. I'm not getting a job because I'm spending most of my time writing poetry. So that's a sign that you're saying no to poetry. It's okay. It's difficult for me, but it's okay. So that was that. 2018. I didn't have anything. Lucky enough, my ID was found somewhere in the bushes, and lucky enough, my passport was in the other room. Those were the only things that I was left with. Anything and everything, it was taken. External hard drives, flash drives, and everything. So after that incident, I said I'm no longer a poet, but I think I wasn't a poet for only 2 weeks because after 2 weeks there's a reverend called Reverend Makiwa. So I would go and help him. He was doing his dissertation in psychology. So I'd go and help him print or type some things for him at his church. So I would use his laptop. So one day I had a dream in 2018, 2 weeks after this incident, when I said I'm no longer a poet. Someone came into my dream and he said, uh, are you forgetting that you're a poet? Then I said, no, I'm no longer a poet. Then that guy said into my dreams, like, tomorrow when you wake up, go and look for poetry opportunities. Then I said, oh, okay, but I'm not a poet, so I'm not interested. Then that was that. Then I woke up. When I woke up, my heart was beating like fast. It was beating. I realized that something had happened, which was really strange in my dreams. When I went to the office, the church office, when I sat on the computer, my heart started like really beating fast, and I started to realize the dream that I had. So I just said, okay, fine, let me just deal with this. So I wrote on the left on Google 2 words, poetry opportunities, just like what I had in my dream. I wrote poetry opportunities. They appeared Bridgewater Poetry Festival. Then I clicked on Bridgewater. Then I noticed the festival that was about to happen. Then they said you can submit 2 poems. So I just wrote 2 short poems, I think 5 lines or 8 lines, freestyle. Then I just wrote and I submitted because my heart was really burning. I didn't know. I just wanted to get out of that realm. That was 2018. After doing that, within a day, those guys they replied, "Wow, your poetry is amazing, and we have got a poetry festival that is happening. Would you want to be part of that poetry festival?" And I said, "Sure." Then they said, "Okay, fine. I think within 3 hours or so, they drafted an invitation letter and they sent me an invitation letter to come to Virginia for Poetry Festival. So it was like, wow. And I came from, so I'd spend the whole day at church after doing whatever I was doing. I'd go into the church. I would start meditate, read the Bible, write. At that time, I wasn't writing poetry, but I'll just read the Bible just to clear my head and and harness myself. So I still remember that day. I went back home in the evening and I said to Mdara Chikepe and Amai Chikepe, I'm invited to America, guys. They were eating salsa at that time. They laughed at me, you know, and they said, "Makatasa madzibaba yao ndo madzibaba angaende ku America yao." That was my mom. She's a comedian, and everyone laughed. In the like, I'm serious. This is the invitation letter. I showed them the invitation letter. They were amazed, like, "Wow." And my dad was like, "Oh, so what is needed?" I said, like, we need 160 for visa and all that. And all. At that time, I was dead broke. I didn't even have a cent. So they started running around, and my other fans from the US, they sponsored everything. It was like a miracle. Everything was happening after the other. So I came to America in 2018, surprisingly, from Norway, without even praying that I want to come to America. It came from a dream. And I came to America. It was an international poetry festival with more than 60 people in Virginia. I participated, and I was in the top 10. They chose the top 10. I was in the top 10, maybe the best poet for that festival, because they called me to perform twice. I was the only person who performed twice. And the poem that I did is called God My Father. I wrote that poem in 2013. It's a poem even up to now when I feel like I'm not happy or anything. That is the poem that I listen to. That poem, it was a poem that I wrote as a way of understanding the rationality of this world, because this world, the way this world works, according to me, is like, this is you and this is everything that happens around you. So you are trying to strike a balance between yourself and everything that happens around you. So for me, according to that poem, there is another realm that is above these two. And that realm, I call it the realm of rationality, which is everything that you don't know about yourself. Even the situation that is against you doesn't know that. But this realm has got a way of appearing and disappearing in our lives. So this poem was it's more like tapping into that realm and forgetting about yourself and forgetting about everything around you, and just saying, I live in this realm and this is the best realm to be, because I don't control this realm. God controls this realm, so I'm okay. So that is the spirit that is inside that poem. So I became the best poet out of this festival. And the guy, his name is Dr. Stan Galloway. He said he was amazed, and he said, "We're going to invite you here for the next 5 years or 10 years." I said, "Oh, okay, thank you so much." So that was that. I spent 6 months in the US, then I went back to Zimbabwe. 2019. So after that, in all the poems that I performed at that festival, I wrote them in the plane. And I still remember one of the poem I wrote that poem in the morning. Yeah, and I didn't have any poetry except the poetry that I had saved on Facebook and other social media. 2019, so I started writing poetry again full time, just like before. 2019, I spent it writing poetry. They invited me again. I came to the US, same festival, and I was also in the top 10. And this time around, there was another guy in the top 10. The first time I was the only black guy. And this time around, there were two black people. The other guy was a guy called Richie Innocent from Jamaica. So he was amazed with my poetry. Same as me, I was amazed with his poetry, because he can just go maybe a page, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages out of the head. He doesn't read. He's just saying things word by word. So we became friends. Then I came back. I was in the top 10, the two of us being the only 2 black people. I came back in Zimbabwe. 2019, I continued writing poetry. 2020, they invited me again and I went to different other festivals, and I was outstanding. There was Western Poetry Festival. Then I would read in North Carolina, different places, and people would really like my poetry. 2020, I applied. 2020, when I was about to come to the US, I think a Friday, saying I'm going to the embassy on Monday, then that is the time they just said no traveling. There's no one who is traveling. So I was forced to be in Zimbabwe in 2020. So I spent the whole year 2020 writing poetry in Zimbabwe. So in addition to that, I would say, okay, from 2018, I was applying at Duke because at Duke University, because someone said a very important comment from that festival of God My Father. She said, her name is Matt Queensberry. She said, your poetry is very spiritual. How about you think of divinity school? So I said, oh, okay. So I told my friends in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. They said, wow, that's a very good idea. We've got one of the best divinity school, if not the best in the country, at Duke. So let's go and apply. So we went straight to Duke and we applied at Duke. 2018, I didn't get a place. It was, oh, okay. Then they said, apply again. 2019, I didn't get a place. Oh, okay. Then they said, apply again. 2020, I applied and they gave me a place at Duke. So 2020, I didn't come to America. I was busy writing poetry. In 2020, without even expecting it, the guys at Duke, they offered me a place at Duke to study masters in divinity. So I came here in 2020, 21. So in addition to that, in 2016, I just realized in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, I think I was 29 years. I just realized that very soon I'll be 30 years. So I say to myself, when you are 30, what does it mean when you are 30? When you are 30, it means you are now old, according to what I said. You are now old. So if I'm now old, what can I do? And at that time, I knew I'm very good in poetry, but I wasn't recognized as a big poet in Zimbabwe in 2016. So I said, these guys, maybe they are not going to recognize me as a very good poet or as a big poet. Although at that time, because it was 10 years of writing poetry, there's no one who recognizes me as an outstanding poet, except my family members and all that. So I say to myself, 2016, okay, so what can I do? I know I'm very good, but maybe there's no one who's going to tell me that I'm very good. So what can I do? So I say to myself, I'm going to start a group of poets, and I'm going to groom them. I'm going to teach them everything I know about poetry. So I started Chikepe and the 100 Sailors in 2016 as a way of sharing everything that I know out of poetry, out of my 10 years experience of writing poetry. And it started, I think, with a 1%, 2, then it became 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, 200. So that is the group that I have. And that group, it grew into another group because it was a full WhatsApp group. Then I had to create another WhatsApp group. So I created a second group, which is the Sailors Club. The first group is called 100 Sailors. And it's growing. I think it has got more than 150 people. I am grooming them outright poetry from 2016. Then I created another one, which is called Chikepe and the International Sailors. It has got people from all over Africa. So right now, I think we've got about 50 to 80 something people in that group, excluding other people that are linked to those people. So that is my other achievement. That is what I'm doing. I've shared myself with more than 400 people in Africa. That is the best achievement I have done so far. And the proof of that achievement is right now I'm in the US. And out of those 400 people, there are four people. Four people. Those people, they are the ones that publish the Sailors Review. We publish Sailors Review every 2 weeks, and those people, there is Brian Manyati, there is a Tatenda, there is Dr. Tembi, and there is Martin Chiwaku, and there is Tatenda Murangi. Those four people, they publish. I taught them from scratch. Some of these people, they were not poets. I taught them from scratch how to be a poet. Right now, they're amazing poets. In addition to teaching them how to be poets, I also taught them how to be publishers. They are right now publishers, and I'm at school. I'm doing divinity. Sometimes I don't even do anything. They are writing poetry, and they are publishing the Sailors Review every week. So that is what I've done, and those are the best out of the 400. Those four I've mentioned. The other one I can add. Her name is Pikitai Angela Rugara. She's 68 years, and I published her first book. And last year when I was in Zimbabwe, and she's amazing. She worked hard. Being 68 years, she works hard like an 18-year-old lady, and she's also my achievement. I taught her from scratch, and she's amazing. Right now, she's very famous in Jamaica. They call her Queen Angela. And among so other people that I'm inspiring. So that is my journey. And the surprising part of it right now is I'm now a Duke. What I thought was my definition of university when I went to National University of Science and Technology is what I am. Is what I am facing right now. I want to show you something which is really interesting. Yeah. So within a week of being at school, you need to read all these books and finish them. I think not within a week, within a month. And these are some of the books that I'm reading, and there are others, a lot of more other books that I have to read and I have to buy. That was my definition of university in 2007 when I went to Mass. This is what I'm.
What Chikepe, I promised I need to hand over to Monica.
Yeah.
You have done something here. I wanted to make an observation that when all your poetry was stolen,
Yeah.
there's something that was not stolen.
Yeah.
It is the poet.
Yeah.
The poet was not stolen. Number two, the poet's voice was not stolen. And the poet's voice is now manifesting in all those students who now comprise the sailors, the Wachikepe and the sailors and everything. So the voice, nobody can steal the poet's voice.
That's very true.
And your voice is a voice of liberation, liberating the mind.
Yes.
Remember, Bob Marley said, "None but ourselves can free our minds."
Emancipate yourself from
mental
slavery.
Mental slavery is stealing written materials.
That is very true.
That do not originate from you.
That is very true.
The voice is here. The voice is alive.
Yes.
And the voice is on a megaphone right now. So as you continue to multiply your audiences, I think that you have just tried to be as modest as you can be, because you have not mentioned the award you won in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So I think you did that because you are modest. And being modest is very typical with Zimbabweans, because we do not want to be seen to be beating our chest.
That's very
Tell us about the award.
That's very true. The award, the IROMA Award, the International Reggae and World Music Award. in the Mutabaruka category is the best award that I have right now. I am the reigning champion of poetry in Zimbabwe, not only in Zimbabwe, from Africa, not only in Africa, but from Africa and Jamaica and the world at large, since it is an international award. These guys, I think they were studying my poetry from Facebook because I'm always posting on Facebook anything, and they loved my poetry. And if I want to do something that is opposite of what Reverend Maforo is, to beat my chest for myself, I would say I write amazing poetry. I write. They're spoken word artists, spoken word poets. Yeah, I feel them. I feel them. But sometimes I feel like they're not thinking deep and nice and deeper. For me, I write. So that's one thing. Maybe Mtabaruka himself, he noticed and he just said, like, this guy writes. I read all those books I showed you. I make sure that I read them all and I create theories, hypotheses, and all sorts of things, and I write poetry. So this is what is happening. I'm very happy with this award, and my next step right now is to make sure that very soon I also go to Jamaica to meet all those people who love my work and to do some collaborations. And right now in the States, I'm starting to feel my spirit in terms of writing poetry. I've started writing amazing poetry, and the type of poetry that I'm writing right now, I'm looking forward to win some awards because it has grown big and it's growing big. Everything that we're learning, these guys at Duke, they're amazing. No wonder why it's a world-class university. They make us think. This is the first time in my life I've felt challenged. When you're a poet, we don't say it as poets, but when you are a poet, we have got. When you are a poet, you have got an idea about everything. You can comment about anything and everything.
And you see, one more thing I skipped here, and when you talked about the book cafe,
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with the book cafe.
Yeah.
I went every year for the Shoko Festival, and I know that you feel let down that you were never featured on the Shoko Festival.
Yeah.
But here is what God does.
That's true. That is very true.
During that whole time when you were writing and locked in your own small room, and God was present right there.
Amen. Amen. That's true.
I wanna take this time and yield it to Monica.
Oh my God. I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to listen to you speak because you are speaking life into many people who are sitting at home and they are thinking that all is lost. You are speaking life into me.
Yeah.
You're speaking life into people in Zimbabwe who do not realize that not having a job right now doesn't mean that all is lost.
Yeah.
Your testimony, your testimony is a word.
Yeah.
And you went through so many hurdles.
Yeah.
And you also there are so many messages in your story. I know that you are a poet, but I was just wondering if there is a book, a biography that that really chronicles everything that you have gone through, and how you have managed to come out at the on the other side with the challenges that that you walked through. You lost your you went through a year for a whole year without going back to
School.
to college.
Yeah.
Then all your work that you had compiled was stolen.
Yeah.
Not only that, the attitude that people have in Zimbabwe about poetry, about a poet,
Yeah.
the criticism that I can imagine
Yeah.
you would have gone through
Yeah.
all those years from people who are relatives, some relatives
Yeah.
would have like completely dismissed you
Yeah.
and said, 4 years here achingoti ari kungoita mheno zvemapoem izvi,
Yeah.
ari kuti zvinounza chikafu here.
Yeah.
But look at where you are now.
Yeah.
And I wish you could talk about this story
Yeah.
a lot more, because somebody needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to hear that success does not come overnight.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to hear that you plow in. I was amazed by how you decided to teach yourself Shona
Yeah.
and what you did. So
Yeah.
people only talk about the training that an athlete does, the hours that they put in. No one talks enough about priming your mind
Yeah.
for what is to come.
Mm.
And all that, I was taking it all in. I'm
Wow.
going to, whenever I feel discouraged about a situation, I'm going to come back to this video and
Wow.
I'm going to listen to it again, because it is powerful.
Wow. 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 Thank you. Thank you.
And the other thing is, people need to pause and listen to God.
Yeah.
He speaks to us. He tells us what to do.
Yeah.
The thing is, we've got so much going on, we do not pause
Mm.
to listen and to understand, because these gifts that we were given so they could look after us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Reverend Maforo, have you got anything to add? Because
I just wanted to take this opportunity to say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations for your persistence.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You persisted.
That's true.
In Shona, we say Sango Rinopa.
One day. Yeah.
And congratulations for all the achievements that you have explained,
Yeah.
including the times that you attended festivals in the US.
Yes.
And congratulations in securing a place at the prestigious Duke University. It's a place many people yearn to
Yeah.
go to. In fact, I am a fan of the Duke basketball.
Yay.
So whenever that is the time, I get to follow Duke a lot.
Yeah.
Not at the expense of Kansas University, but
Okay.
I just wanted to say that. The last thing I want to say as we wind up and offer all these congratulations is to say kudos to your parents.
Yeah.
You have the kind of parents
Yes.
that
Yes.
many children
Yeah.
are looking for.
That's very true.
Parents who will allow you to go through this, like what Monica said. Some would have probably chased you away from home and
That's
said,
very true. Yeah.
we are not ready to feed a 29-year-old.
Yeah.
But they saw what was growing in you. They saw what you were contributing to the world. And now we can count, and it's countless.
Yeah.
So thank you for holding on.
Yeah.
And I would say keep on keeping on.
Thank you so much.
Because I tell you, like you said, your poetry is spiritual.
Yeah.
And look at where you are now, trying to make sense of all those things. There is a real resonance,
Yes.
um, and complementarity between theology and poetry. And I think that it's all coming out
Yeah.
as you do this. Uh, I could go on and on, but man, you're the poet. And I was most inspired by the self-publishing concept.
Yeah.
I even feel guilty because I know how much I could have written,
Yeah.
but and Monica has encouraged me many times.
Mm.
So I know you have just helped to make me feel guilty. So we really want to appreciate you. Uh, uh, as we as we wind down, is there anything you want to speak to someone in your shoes,
Yeah.
but not having the same kind of supportive parents?
Mm.
I know your mother is a comedian.
That's true.
Talk to somebody,
Yes.
just talk to the world.
Okay. So my my wise words today to the world is are this. Um, this world is changing and it is going to continue changing. We will not be part of the change to a greater extent. So it means we are going to be changed in the process of change. But what is very important is to discover yourself, is to search for yourself until you find yourself. And the best way to search for yourself is to be curious of yourself and to invest a lot of time for yourself in search of yourself. Because the moment that you do that is the moment that you're going to have a portion in terms of the change that we are going through or we are going to go through, because you have a voice, you have a light that will resist anything that is against the light, and you make it through. The process is very difficult. I have said my story in a summary, but it wasn't easy. It was very, very, very difficult. There were, yes, I've got a supportive family. They love me. They are the best fans. Every time I write a poem, I'll go into the dining and read for them, sitting down. They clap hands for me. They give me gifts and all sorts of things. But there were times when I would look into life by myself, maybe in my room, and there were times when I would cry. There were times when even relatives, they would look at me and they would think like I'm crazy. There were times even when I would come to America and come back, and they would ask me like, "Are you crazy? You go to America and come back? Dzakanyatso tikweserere, dzonyatso. There were times when society would look at you, you are 34, you are not married. Right, hero, anonyatsofunga zvakanaka, but it is because there will be something that will be in the cooking, and that thing is very important. And that thing, it's not the interesting part. That thing, when you realize that thing is not for yourself, it is for others. You are being used by God as an instrument for his own purposes. When I realized about that, I'll be very frank, I used to like all sorts of other things. But when I realized about that's when I said, okay, I'm going to stop this and stop this and stop doing this and stop doing this, because I'm carrying something that is very big for everyone in this world. So that is what we need to do. There's nothing, even school, I showed you books. School can't do anything to us. Nothing, there's nothing that will do anything to you, nothing in this world. But everything, it is going to help you get that thing that is inside you. theologically we call it a gift, but that gift needs all sorts of spiritual inspiration to be out of you. That gift is your life, and make sure you stick to it. Everything else, even in the Bible, zvinonzi mukadzi akanaka anobva kuna Mwari. Hatifambe tichimutsvaga sekutsvaga kwandinomboita. Ndinombotsvaga ndayatsofila kuti ndabhoo ndogara ndega, asi ndozoona kutoti aiwa anobva kuna Mwari. Saka ndo zvinhu zvacho izvozvozvo. Saka be encouraged, and inspiration is very important. I always say it wasn't easy, but we make it easy. Everything, semunhu iri rambi riri panapa, bulb. Munhu akagadzira bulb akatora makore nemakore kuti agadzire bulb, achimbobakidza kenduru, achiisa matambo pakenduru kuti bulb rivepo. Asi parakavapo, society haina basa newe stereki. Society inomirira kungokubvunza kuti chinonzani ichi, iwe woti bulb. Onzi rinobakidzwa sei, iwe woti rinodai so. Kunodzima sei, iwe woti rinodai so. Ndo zvinoda society chete.
Watopedza newe.
Watopedza newe, hasina basa newe. Zvekuti wakapedza sleepless nights uchibakidza kenduru, hawana basa nazo. So we are servants of the society. We are social workers. So when you are a social worker, it's going to take a lot out of you. But when you are spiritual, it's going to be a walk in the park.
Okay, we have 3 minutes to go, and this was rich.
Yeah.
This was rich. In my other previous job, I ran a program called From Subject to Citizen.
Yeah.
And it applies anywhere in the world. And one of the things that it taught us is what you have just articulated. It mentions 3 things.
Yeah.
And we were focusing on young people. That they have space, they have the voice, and they have, if they use those 2 things well, then they can influence. So space, voice, and influence is what you have turned into be. So we want to thank you. Don't worry about what you don't have. I'm actually proud of you that as a young person, not yet married, but you are full of life, and you are giving life. So that's so important. I will also, in telling you, tell other young people that being single does not make you less than those who are married. You are in the image of God. Keep giving out the gift that you have and the gift that you are. Thank you. And Monica, can you close us off in the next couple of minutes?
Yes, I just want to thank you so much, Chikepe, for sharing your life with us, motivating us, inspiring us, giving us some life lessons, because somebody today needed to hear this.
Amen.
I did.
I needed to hear this. And so you have, just as you are, once again, you've been a gift to us. And, some of the hurdles that you went through, especially the one where you lost all your work, was a big test. And people sometimes don't realize that they need to go through those tests. So that God knows what you're already made of, but you didn't know at the time what you were made of. But it was through going through those challenges that you became who you are, knowing yourself as you are now telling others that you need to find yourself. And so everything that has already been inside is now showing out. And the gift, no one can ever take your gift away, is the message that I took here. But
Yeah.
also to say, feed your brains,
Mm.
feed yourself,
Yes.
and just stay focused.
Mm.
Nothing is impossible.
That's very true.
You get to where you want to go,
Yes.
but be prepared
Mm.
to feed and to do everything, to nurture.
Mm.
Nurture that gift. You are given it, but it needs to be nurtured. You
Mm.
need to move with time and the changes. Thank you so much, Reverend Maforo, once again for, inviting this talent. I am so grateful because I didn't know about him. Now I'm his biggest fan. Like you were saying.
Prophecy fulfilled.
Biggest fan.
Prophecy fulfilled.
See you guys.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.